Check your fly. Blue wing olive KlinkHanson. The KlinkHanson is a fly I invented 20 years ago or more to imitate emerging mayflies in our area. I tied in all different colors. It has the same pheasant tail shuck on the back to imitate a mayfly emerging out of its husk. I even tied in a red one to imitate a bloody mayfly. The KlinkHanson has become the logo for my blog. You'll see it on my stickers and magnets and buttons. It's even part of the logo here on Check Your Fly. As I mentioned, you can tie it in all different colors. This is a blue wing olive one that I like. It's a great emerger. Here's a bunch I just tied up for a fly shop that I sell to. And here's the bug that it imitates. Let's tie one. This is a Daiichi 1130 hook, size 18. You can use any light wire scud hook if you want. I am starting my 8/0 olive unit thread about an eye length behind the eye or so. That is where I'm going to put on my post. I like to use a dark dun colored parapost material. You can use Antron or poly yarn, whatever you want. As you can see, I double that yarn up underneath the hook shank and hold it straight up. Throw a few thread wraps on the front of the yarn. Switch hands. Throw a few thread wraps on the back of the yarn. Now this yarn that I'm using is a little long, so I'm going to trim that off a little bit, make it more manageable. Put a couple of wraps of thread right around the base of that yarn first to make things a little bit more secure. And I'm trimming off the yarn. Now I'm going to wrap my thread up the post. I invert my bobbin and I just go up the yarn about 1/8 of an inch or so and back down. Now to make everything a little bit more secure so things don't flop around, I will put a few figure eights around the base there. Now I'm going to tie in my hackle. This is some nice whiting dark dun hackle. It's sized to the flies, a size 18 feather. To get that ready, I trim off some of the fibers on the butt end of the feather, leaving little nubbins for the thread to hold on to. Now on all my parachute hackle, I want to tie that in so it's kind of parallel to the tabletop and concave up or curved up towards the ceiling. Then I can tie it on right behind the post, and I actually marry that right to the post with a few wraps of thread and bring my thread back down to the hook shank. Now I'm going to invert this hook a little bit so I can get at the back part of the hook, and I'm going to tie in some copper wire. This is actually copper wire I got at, I don't know, Hobby Lobby or somewhere. It's a 28 gauge, which I believe is about the same size as small if you were to buy it at a fly shop. And I tie that on the side of the hook to make the back part of the body a little wider. And the back part of the body, the abdomen, or it represents the nymphal husk that the mayfly is crawling out of, is always pheasant tail fibers. On this size 18, I've trimmed off about 6 pheasant tail fibers. Anywhere between 4 and 8 is perfect for this size fly. Tie those in back there by the tips, and I'm going to wrap those forward. So this back part of the fly imitates the husk of the nymph that the mayfly is breaking out of. So a pheasant tail makes a perfect husk as far as I'm concerned. Wrap that forward, tie that in. Now I want the back part of this fly to hang down below the water surface. That's why I put some copper wire in here, add a little bit of weight, and makes it look segmented. So I'll wrap that forward. Make a nice segmented back half of the body here. You could add tails, I suppose. I never do. I think this is a great fly even without any tails on it. Tie off that copper wire, 3 or 4 wraps of thread, and then I just like to wiggle that off so I get in real close with my fingertips and wiggle that off. It should just pop right off just like that. Now I'm going to invert that hook back to its normal upright position here, and I'm going to put some dubbing here in the front. I like to use dubbing that matches the body of the adult mayfly, so this is going to be some olive, super fine. And you don't need a whole lot because you're just covering up the front quarter of the hook shank or so. Got a little bit about an inch or so of dubbing on my thread, and just cover up all those thread wraps, figure 8 around the base of the wing, and let your thread hang right behind the eye. Now I always wrap my parachute hackles counterclockwise, so I pull it down, start at the top of the thread wraps, make my first wrap, and each consecutive wrap is below the previous wrap. Try to get about 5 wraps or so in. Hold that down on the far side of the hook, bring my thread around the top of the hook there to tie this in, and when I bring it up on my side, I'm behind that feather, so that's pretty much tied in right now. Do a couple more wraps there, and to get the hackle trimmed, I like to get my thread out of the way so I can trim underneath the hook eye there. Trim that out, trim out the hackle, any loose hackle fibers I might have matted down. And then I bring my thread back, tie that in a little bit more, make a nice little thread head, cover up any hackle that might be trapped there, and then I whip finish. When I do my whip finish, I just try to duck the thread underneath the front hackles there so that I don't mat those down. And that's all there is to it. We'll trim that thread out as close as we can underneath the hook eye. There we go, looks good. Now all we have left to do is trim the post. I like to trim it to about the length of the body or so. And our blue wing olive KlinkHanson is complete. Looks pretty good, huh? Thanks for watching.
Check your fly.